Hi friends, it's Amy. Welcome to my bookish life. Today I am going to do the mid-year book freakout tag. So let's get to it. The mid-year book freakout tag is just a way to reflect on how my reading is going for the year, because we are halfway through 2022, which is crazy insane. So the first question is the best book that you have read so far in 2022. And last year at the mid-year book freakout tag, the best book that I had read so far this year was The Circus of Stolen Dreams by Lorelei Saverin. And this year, my favorite book of 2022 so far, one of them, is The Edge of In Between by Lorelei Saverin. I loved it so much. But I also have two more books to talk about. I also want to talk about Starfish by Lisa Fipps. This book is so good. I love the novel and verse aspect of it. It's so good. And I loved it so much. I made sure to get a copy for my classroom as soon as I could. I used some gift card money on that. And it was so good. Those are both middle grade. I did love a lot of the adult books that I've been reading so far this year. And the one that I want to point out is Close Quarters by Amanda Zieba. This book I just read in June, so I just talked about it in my wrap-up. I just loved how deeply it dove into family relationships and driving each other crazy and loving each other and helping each other and holding each other up. And I just loved it so much. I flew through it, and then I was mad because I was done with it. And I'm so excited that I get to read the sequel at some point. Because I want to see these people again. They felt like friends, and I loved that so much. I just felt like I was like this friend watching what was happening, and I loved it. I loved how it was written. I just loved how it came together. All right, the second is the best sequel of the year. And I've read a lot of sequels, so I have to, of course, give some recognition to the Keeper of the Lost Cities books, because these books just keep knocking it out of the park. I love this series. It's so fun to buddy read it. It's been really a lot of fun. So I have to mention those. However, I also want to mention Omar Rising by Aisha Saeed. This is the sequel to Amal Unbound. It's more of a companion. It does continue the story from Amal, but you see completely different characters. So you don't need to have read Amal Unbound in order to read Omar Rising. I really loved the story. I loved how it took this character that you don't get to see a lot in Amal, but you still just loved because he was this neat kid, and you get to see him as a main character in his own story. And I just really loved that. Number 3 is a new release you have yet to read. And this is completely parallel to my last year's mid-year freakout tag, because I have yet to read the second Finlay Donovan. And I really want to read it. And I have it. I'm so excited for it. I cannot wait to read it. I just keep on getting other stuff that that is taking precedent, and that's just the way it is. But I'm very excited to get to that one eventually. The other one that I'm really excited to get to is The Marvelers by Dhonielle Clayton. This just looks so good. I got it from Bookshelf Thomasville, and I just think it's going to be great. I am really excited to read it, but I haven't yet. Moving on. All right. Question number 4 is most anticipated release that is yet to come. Of course, I have a bunch of those. One is the second book in the Amari and the Night Brothers, and I can't think of what it's called right now, but I'm really excited to be back in that world. I have it pre-ordered, and I'm so excited to dive in. Another release that is coming that I'm really excited about is Stellarlune by Shannon Messenger. This is the 9th book in The Keeper of the Lost Cities. It's coming out in November. Very excited to read that one. Also, there is a cozy mystery that I'm really excited to get my hands on and read, and that is Doomful of Sugar by Catherine Bruns. This is a cozy mystery that takes place on a maple syrup farm. I don't know if that's what they call it. It's a maple tree farm. They make maple syrup. I don't know. I'm really excited. It's the start of a new series for her. Catherine Bruns is one of my favorite cozy mystery authors, so I'm really excited to see what she has in store for this new cast of characters. Number 5 is your biggest disappointment. And I can't say that I have a ton of disappointments. I have found enjoyment in all of the books that I've read. You know, there hasn't been a book that I'm just like, oh, I absolutely hate this. I have, however, been disappointed with 3. So Jigsaw Jungle by Christine Levine. I really, really wanted to love this one. It has such an interesting premise, an interesting format. The reason for the main character's dad disappearing didn't feel authentic to me at all. And it just felt cruel to the main character. Like, the main character really went through the ringer, and I didn't like that. It wasn't nice, and it wasn't cool, and I didn't like that. So I was a little bit disappointed that I didn't love that as much as I wanted to love it. I really wanted to love it, and I just couldn't. Another one that I read that I just was disappointed in was Dead End in Norvelt. And this one really disappointed me because it's a Newbery winner. A Newbery winner should be more captivating and more engaging than I found this one. There was a murder mystery that didn't even start until the last 20% of the book. So there was like no action until then. There were snippets that I really liked, that I really enjoyed, but I was just disappointed in the overall presentation of the book just because I expected so much more from a Newbery winner. The other one that I was disappointed in is The Silent Sister by Diane Chamberlain. And the reason I was disappointed by this is not that I didn't like the book, because I did like the book, but I was disappointed because I wanted to like it so much more than I did. I really like what I've read from Diane Chamberlain. I've read Dream Daughter, which is still my favorite of hers. Big Lies in a Small Town, I just loved. Silent Sister, I did not love it like I've loved her other things. I still gave this book 3 stars. I enjoyed it. It was fine. I just didn't want fine. I wanted awesome. Question number 6 is your biggest surprise of the year. I have 2 for this one, and both of them have to do with my students. The first one is Red Rover. This is the book that my students chose for me to read, and I was very sure that I was going to not like it. I didn't think I was going to hate it. I was pretty sure I wasn't going to like it. I was in, the whole time I was reading this. It brought in some different mythology, some different story, oral tradition stories. And it was really kind of cool how it came together. And I really did enjoy the book a lot more than I thought I was going to. It was pretty creepy. I did really, really get into how the story came together as a whole. So I was really surprised by how much I really liked that book. Another one that really surprised me was The Aquanaut by Dan Santort. This book So random. My students also chose this one. I had three like books that I could choose from, and I told them, hey, we'll read the first part of whichever one of these three you want to do. They chose the Aquanaut. I thought it looked stupid. I just thought it looked so silly. I was like, oh my gosh, you guys, this is weird. It's about sea creatures that take over the sea suit, and they like pretend to be, I'm like, this is crazy. It was so good. It was so cute. I was so into it. It was so great. I just loved it. A lot. I think that I gave it 5 stars. I don't actually know for sure, but I was pretty sure that it was going to be so weird and beyond ridiculous. And I don't want to go there, but it was really good. It was really, really good. I was impressed. It was good. All right. Number 7 is a favorite new author. So I have 2 authors that I have read this year for the first time that I really, really enjoyed. And one was Lindsay Curry. She writes creepy middle grade. And the book that I read of hers was Scritch Scratch. And I just loved the story that she told. I loved how she told it. I loved the amount of true meets fiction in it. It was really great. And I loved it so much. And then another one was Jamie Jo Wright. The book that I read from her was Reckoning at Gossamer Pond. This was recommended to me by Krista at Books and Jams. I read it and I loved it. I loved how suspenseful it was. I loved the characters, and it was so full of suspense, and it just read so well. I really, really enjoyed it. So that was really good. Loved it. Number 8 is your new fictional crush, or I've also seen it as a new fictional crush or a child you would like to adopt. So I thought I would go with that one because, I don't know, I couldn't think of a new fictional crush, but I, more than anything, want to adopt Elle from Starfish because her mom is terrible, and I would make a much better mom for Elle. I'm very certain that I could. So getting Elle away from her mom would be sensational. So Elle from Starfish is definitely a child that I would like to adopt. I also read a book about an orphan that just deserves a really wonderful family that will nurture her creativity and her art, and that's Lottie from The Edge of In Between. If I could give that child a home, man, I would so be there. So yeah. Number 9 is your favorite main character. And the reason I didn't put this as a child I would like to adopt is that her mom's actually pretty cool. And that is Moth from The OK Witch. I've read The OK Witch and the second book, The OK Witch and the Hungry Shadow, and really enjoyed both of them. Moth as a character is great. She is not perfect by any means, and that is what I love about this character. She really digs in to try and become a better person and learn from her mistakes, and I just love that. And as long as I'm going to talk about Moth, I might as well talk about her best friend Charlie, because he is so cool. Like, them as a duo is great. I love Moth and Charlie as a team. They're awesome. Okay. Number 10 is the book that made you cry. And I have to say, All 13 by Christina Soontermott was definitely a book that made me cry. It is definitely tears were shed. It is the true story of the soccer team that was trapped in the cave in a cave in Thailand, and all 13 were able to get out safely. However, in this story, in this narrative nonfiction, she's telling the story and filling it with so much suspense, and it's so great that she's able to do that, even though you actually know the outcome of the incident, to be able to create that much suspense as you get to that point was really beautiful. Loved it. And it definitely made me cry. Another book that made me cry was The Bookshop of Dust and Dreams by Mindy Thompson. This book takes place in a bookshop during World War II, and the bookshop can actually move in time. So it's based in World War II, but then it can move to like 1972 or 1999 or even 2010. Or it can move back in time like the 1800s. So it's just this wildly imaginative world built. And then a friend of the family who has been killed in action in the war, and everybody in the store and around them in the World War II time is reeling from this instance, this thing that happened. And it just, it tugs on every single heartstring that you have. And it is beautifully written and beautifully pulls together all of these different elements. And I really loved it, but it definitely made me cry more than once. There's definitely more. I cry a lot at books. So a book that made me happy was Mr. Lemoncello's Very First Game by Chris Gravenstein. I loved this book so much. And it just made me so happy because Mr. Lemoncello's Very First Game is the prequel to the Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's Library series. And I love Mr. Lemoncello in that series. So just to see Luigi Lemoncello's origin story is amazing and awesome and wonderful. It made me so happy to see the wonderful people that Luigi was surrounded by that helped him and encouraged him to become the Luigi Lemoncello that is such an important part of the universe in Mr. Lemoncello's Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's Library. And I love how it brought elements from the original series and left Easter eggs that shoot towards the original series. And it just made me so happy to read it. So wonderful to be in that world again. Just loved it. And then number 13 is Most Beautiful Purchase. So for Most Beautiful Purchase, I need to go with this series. I just think that this cover is gorgeous. I love the symbolism behind it. There's a symbol for each of the members of the Athena Club. There's actually a poison bottle right here that you can't see because of the stupid sticker, but it's just beautiful. And I got the whole series. Each book has just this beautiful cover. The colors come together and are beautiful. I just really like how this series looks, and I just think it's gorgeous. So, books that I want to read before the end of the year, all of them. I don't know how else to put that. One book that I want to read before the end of the year is The Plot by Jean Hanff Korelitz. I definitely want to read this before the end of the year. Definitely want to read The Souls of Lost Lake by the end of the year. This is another Jamie Jo Wright. I was actually sent this through Krista's Christmas in July exchange, and very excited to read that. And another one that I need to read before the end of the year, and hopefully actually by the end of this month, is Treasure in the Lake by Jason Pamment. And this is actually a graphic novel that I have on loan from one of my students. And so I definitely want to make sure that I read that before I have to give it back to her. She said that it's really fun and she really liked it and she thinks that I will like it. So definitely this is a book that I want to get to before the end of the year. In fact, the end of today. In fact, the end of this month, July. So there is that. So those are all the questions. I really enjoyed looking back at the books that I've read this year. I thought it was I just think it's so interesting to go through and reflect on those things. So I'm really glad that this exists. So that's all I have for you today. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you saw some books that interest you or intrigue you. I would love to hear from you down in the comments. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more from me, I would love it if you would subscribe. I hope that you're finding something wonderful to read. And until next time, happy reading. Bye.